Hi. Let's talk about the three artifacts that the Scrum has. Right? What are the three artifacts that the Scrum recommends in building a product, right? In building a software product. So the first and foremost one is actually product backlog, right? So there's a product backlog, the second one is a sprint backlog, and the third one is a sprint burn down. Let's start with the product backlog. Product backlog is actually the list of all the features, all the requirements that we are going to build in the next 3 or 6 months or maybe 1 year. Right? This is what we want to build, and then this is what is the final product that we want to build. Right? So if you look at it, some of these requirements are very small, some of these are kind of decent, big size, kind of mid size, and some of these, the green ones, are really big ones. Yeah? So this is how in agile world we look at the requirements. Right? Unlike traditional world, in traditional world the problem that we have is we try to detail every small thing till the last one. We don't even know whether we're going to build this, but we still make this detailed. Right? Doesn't make sense because we don't need it now. All that we need is this one to start with. Yeah. So I'll give you an example. Right? Let's start with the non-software example, and then we'll come to software. The non-software example is, I constructed a house. Okay? I constructed a 3-bedroom house, and all that the requirement that I had was, I had the requirement year as well as year. The requirement that I had was, I need a 3-bedroom house, and with attached toilets, and I need a good hall, spacious hall, and then I need a small dining area and a kitchen. This was the requirement, and maybe a little bit space in the front and backyard, right? So that I have a good spacious house. Yeah. Is this detailed enough to have a complete house ready? No, not really. No, definitely not. It is just a high-level picture of this kind of house I want. Yeah. And I went to a builder and said, "Hey, this is the kind of house we want." He said, "Yes, good." We actually built our house in a kind of agile way, in an agile way of building a product. So all that we did was, what is that we need in the next 15 days? Right? Let's detail it. So we know the requirements that it's going to be one floor house with three bedroom. So the first thing that we started with the foundation, right? The foundation is basically defined based on the old requirement. Okay, this was the requirement. So the foundation should be strong enough to hold one floor house, right? And we just decided that it's going to take 19 columns, and then each column is of 3 feet deep, right? But that we really detailed. We got it very, very detailed. Okay, but what is that there are a few things that we did not detail. We know that we want to have this is we want to have so many windows and so many doors. That was like the blue. And what we didn't have any clarity on was about the interiors. Right? Where do we mount our AC, or where do we want to exactly fit our fan? That we didn't bother about it. Let's say that we said, okay, when we come there, we'll worry about it, but let's start building a foundation. So we actually got some requirements that are very, very detailed. That is called sprint backlog. What is a sprint backlog? Sprint backlog is nothing but what is it we're going to build in the next one sprint. Right? What is one sprint? We know that sprint is of length 1 to 4 weeks. Right? It can be 1 week or 4 weeks. Right? The smallest can be 1 week and largest can be 4 weeks. So let's take here an example. For example, we'll take 2 weeks of sprint. Right? Sprint backlog is nothing but what we are building in the next 2 weeks, right? Which is actually the subset of product backlog, which comes from the highest priority on the product backlog. So the product backlog, if you see this line, it's actually have low and high priority. The highest priority items goes to sprint backlog. Okay? So the team decides, hey, this is what is the sprint backlog that we will be able to build in the next 2 weeks. Yeah? Let's assume that the team has 200 hours of capacity in the next 2 weeks. Yeah? So based on that, they kind of pick it saying that, hey, I think based on this 200 hours of capacity, we can actually build these 10 items out of these 200 items. Yeah? You'll be able to build this 10 features. And then we actually move forward. So sprint backlog is actually highest priority items from the backlog, and it's very detailed. And the team has every clarity, all kinds of clarity required to build this feature. Okay. So let's take an example of again. Now, sprint backlog has got 2 parts. One is that basically the user story, which is it explains about the what. It's about the story and the acceptance criteria. and the tasks are basically the detailed tasks, right? So this is all about how and this is all about what. Okay, so let's take an example. Now that we start with the construction, the sprint backlog was the foundation. Yeah, the foundation. We gave this foundation that the foundation should be able to hold one floor, right? And then it should stand for at least 100 years. That's a requirement that we had. And then we split this into a couple of details. And then we also knew that how big the room should be, so that only then we can actually build a structure, the foundation structure. So now we got into the task. The task is nothing but how do we build it? This is all about the technical work, right? In this construction example, how deep should be the column? How much of width the column should have, the diameter of the column, and what should be the the width of the steel that we use? What should be the ratio of the cement and the soil that we should mix it so that it is strong enough? All the details, the how part of the details comes here as tasks. Okay, this is decided by the builder. This is decided by the owner of the apartment, owner of the house. Okay, so this is in software. This is decided by the product owner or the customer. This is decided by the team, the development team. The team knows how to build it. Yeah? So the sprint backlog is basically a combination of story and tasks. Yeah. Now let's assume the 2-week sprint is done, the planning is done, and the team is getting into execution. How do we track the sprint that we are on track and we'll be able to complete this work in the next 2 weeks? Right? The sprint burn down, the third artifact, really helps in measuring that. Sprint burn down is like, if you see the x-axis, it is like day 1 to day 10. It is because 2 week sprint, and capacity is like 200 hours. So we should be burning the 200 hours of effort. Yeah. In a tradition, what's the difference between the project tracking in a sprint burn down form as against the traditional way of burning it, the traditional way of measuring it? In traditional world, what we do is we say that this task is complete, so we are 20% done. Let's assume that requirements is fully understood, right? 20% of the task is done. Design is done. Another 20-30% is done. Coding is done. 30% more is done. So we are done with 80%. The problem with that is we always look at what is done and not really what is yet to be done. Right? The challenge is we think we are done with 80%. There are a few critical defects during a testing which actually will give you the status of we are not 80% and we actually we are done only 50%. But we get to know that very late. Yeah? How do we measure that through burn down? The burn down measures not what is done, burn down measures what is yet to be done. Right? Let's assume that 200 hours in 10 days that you have to burn, we have to burn 20 hours every day. Only then we are on track. Yeah? So, what if we don't burn 20 hours of work? We spend 20 hours. That doesn't mean that we have burned 20 hours of work. Right? So, what if we have not touched 20 hours or finished 20 hours of work? The burn down will show that, hey, we just completed only 10 hours of work. So the remaining work is 190 hours of work. It's not 180. So that tells me that hey, we are actually, we're not on track. We're going. There's a delay here. So every day the team can measure that are we on track. The ideal. So this line, the blue line you see, the straight line, it's called ideal burn down, and the red one is actually the actual burn down. How are we progressing, right? So if you see the good way of progressing is this red line actually keep touching somewhere the blue line and somewhere coming down. Yeah. So that tells us every day, hey, we are actually burning down good. We are actually progressing good. What if there is a gap like this? It goes as a straight line, right? Horizontal line. That means we are stuck somewhere that we have to burn 200 hours. It's possible that we have spent 50 hours, but we had to spend 200 hours because nothing has been complete. Right? So burn down is the third artifact that actually explains us and helps us to measure our project tracking on a daily basis. That's the beauty of Agile. Agile, these three artifacts help us so well to build a good product. Yeah? So with that, I think we hope you understood a bit about the three artifacts. Thank you.